Okay, please join me in welcoming the director, Carlos Marques-Marcet, the actress, Natalia Tena, and the director of photography, Dagmar Weaver-Madsen.
Thank you.
You guys.
Thank you, guys.
It's great to have each person for a different phase of the production here, because every element of the movie is fascinating, from the way that you conceived it to the way that it's shot to the performances that are so central to the emotion. But maybe just to kind of frame all of that, Carlos, to get things going. I mean, the idea of a long-distance relationship is not, the freshest concept in the world, but there's a lot about this movie that does feel fresh. I mean, when I watched it for the first time, I was stunned to see the first take, which was, 24 minutes long, something like that, and then the rest of it is all these Skype conversations and texts. So there's something really new and modern about the way this story unfolds. So tell us a little bit about, how this idea came to you, given the fact that, in theory, it's not the most original idea.
No, it's like, if you think about it, the oldest book of Western culture, the Odyssey is a long-distance love book, like that's the beginning of everything. Ulysses and Penelope waiting one for each other. And but to me, it was the difference. Normally, when you see stories about long-distance love, they always talk either in the moment where they get together, or the moments, when they are apart, one and the other. Now you can make the moment when they are apart still together, kind of talking apart, but being at the same time, in a virtual way, one with each other. And a little bit the idea came, because I moved from from Barcelona to Los Angeles, and I spent a lot of hours in front of the computers and screens and webcams and talking with, this virtual life almost that I was living, trying to hold on to my own life to Barcelona. And it was very fascinating to me how we use the tool of cinemas, like the screens and the webcams, to communicate each other, almost like like we used to write letters, so now we're using this. So I had this idea, instead of doing like an epistolary novel, let's do like a webcam movie somehow. But it is not like just found footage film, like horror film that can be good done, but also just to explain how we relate to each other.
And for a cinematographer, I mean, when you heard of this concept, did you think, how do you visualize this? It's totally crazy, or did it make sense to you? I mean,
Well, I think at first the script Carlos had was so beautifully written, and there were so many amazing details in the beginning that I was like, why do you want to do this? As one, we're not going to be able to get in on all these neat details where you're learning about each of their personality and all this. So first I was not as excited, but then Carlos was explaining to me, he's like, the first act we see them as a couple, and you really see them together in this two-shot that's not broken. And then the rest of the movie, they're fragmented and they're separated from each other, and the shots are cut, and you're never going to see them again together in the same way that you do at the beginning of the film. So, because for Carlos and I, it was very important that the shot wasn't just like epic, or we're showing off technically that we can do this, but it has to have a heart in the story and the performance and the characters, and it really is motivated by that. And really quickly you realize, what it is that their connection is. You see them together, we're with them together.
So Natalia, you've done these bigger projects, Game of Thrones, Harry Potter movies, things like that. This is obviously the other end of the spectrum. So what motivated you to be a part of something like this that's so different from those other projects?
I've done lots of smaller things all my life. I mean, I didn't just do Harry Potter immediately. I've done lots of theatre and lots of independent stuff. So it was kind of almost like coming back home to doing something smaller with like a small group of people, and it being like a family, and I love that. And I love the fact this film is about, like he said, Ulysses, and it's actually the woman that goes away and tries to find her career, and I think that's very important. We can break those stereotypes.
And how, because so much of the movie is just the two of you in conversation, how did you develop that chemistry?
With the help of everyone, but especially, the rehearsal with Carlos, and we did a lot of improvisation, which helped, and we kind of improvised how we met, when we first kissed, things like that, and then we did a lot of the scenes, and because we didn't know the script word for word yet, we improvised, and around that kind of filled in different character holes.
So Carlos, how did you know you were getting what you wanted in that process?
During the rehearsal process, you mean? It's always hard. I start from the other side. It's like, I don't know what I want. I want to search what I want while I'm doing it. So it's not like I have a fixated, okay, I write the script, I have some characters in mind, But then once I give it the script to the actors, it's like, oh, we have to discover together, who these people are. So there's no wrong possible, like if you have a very clear goal, so I know what I want to get from the movie, but I don't know the path. So it's basically, you kind of shape as you go, and there's no right or wrong answer, and that's the way that they can explore themselves and and let it go and just feel comfortable, just to open yourself. I felt like if we're honest on the way we're working, on the emotions that we're trying to deal with, and the complexity and the specificity, all this story backwards, it was mostly to be specific, because you only have two people, you really need to rely on everything has a weight, but at the same time, like, chemistry is something you get or you don't get. We were lucky, they had the chemistry. It's very difficult to create, so it's a lot of times it's intuition. I'm very cerebral sometimes, but when I'm directing, I like it because one of the very few moments where it's like, it all gets here in the stomach, and you say yes or no without thinking too much.
Well, and at the same time, and there must have been certain emotions that you wanted to make sure were there. So what did you know going into it in terms of, did you know the ending, the beginning?
Yeah, no. So I have the script, so the situations were clear, I knew what was going to happen. Everything was in the script and everything, but, and we changed a lot the dialogue through the script, but what it changes was we had the point of the iceberg, so we basically created all the other thing, That scene, I knew that was going to end as it ends, and you say I had very clear, but the specific complexity of it, and how it was going to be in there, and the block, it's like, it doesn't matter, you can say a sentence, like say, like, I love you, and you're actually saying I hate you, or I can say, like, just go to it, do the laundry, and you say I love you, but, so to me it was not so much important, it was trying to find the complexity and arrive there in where it's just kind of adding things, you start to add cubes, and things are going somewhere, and on the way you discover the shape that it's gonna get.
Right. The film is filled with all these little moments, and we have some clips. So why don't we roll the first one of those just to put this in context. So are these live Skype conversations? I mean, were you really just talking over that platform? And
she was in one apartment in one side of Barcelona, that was Los Angeles, and in the Gracia district of Barcelona, and the other one was in the old town of Barcelona. So yeah, we had it for real. She was in the bed, so I never saw her on bed at that moment. We just saw her because I was with the camera, of course. And this is actually like, this scene was Dagmar's idea. When I was writing the script, it's like, oh, I do this with my husband all the time, so we should put just that scene in, and of course then it comes more ideas, like about it. But
Dagmar, what are the challenges of shooting a Skype conversation?
There's a lot. Basically, because we always had 2 video chat windows open, recording both sides. So you have to have one set is lit for night, one set is lit for day, and the computer itself is the camera, so people want to like move that to like talk to the person on the other side, or like give notes, or if I want to give notes to the gaffer who's at the other set, we had to have like 3 different video chats open on different lines with iPhones and stuff, so that you're not moving the camera, because that prop computer becomes like complicated. And they had a line so they could do notes. And then other thing with live video chatting is we discovered is like the darker you make it to try and be nighttime, the video chat's just like bringing it brighter and brighter. Like, don't you want to see this stuff? And you're like, no, I want to make it dark because it's like this scene feels this way. I think it was great though to have it live, because it really was wonderful for performance, and it was like brought that realism to it. And sometimes we could do things like we had somebody like shaking the internet connection to try and like make it get slower.
That's funny because we're having like a lot of problems, but they don't want to see that is here. And just like the day we had to do this with the more drops and everything was planned, it was perfect connection.
Perfect. Yeah,
everyone was ripping the cables,
like trying to make the cable to see all these little pixels, and no way connected to the 3G of the cell phone, no way. So I had to do it a little bit in post because that day was perfect.
Like
and of course, the day you really need to work it well, very dramatic scene, then it's cutting all the time.
Yeah, like the big emotional ones, and it was really
frustrating.
It was very frustrating. Like there was a lot of screaming. Like it was like I need to just go outside and scream. Ah! Okay, done. Let's keep going.
But you didn't have all those people running around you most of the time, right? Because they were in the.
Well, it was like half and half.
Oh, when I was alone.
Yeah.
No, yeah, of course, that's different. But then, of course, it flips back and then everyone's on my side. Right. So it's kind of...
It cuts both ways.
Yeah, it goes both ways, yeah.
Well, when you are doing this on the other side, I mean, what is it like acting in a role in which the other person's not there and the crew is invisible?
Well, he is there, and I'm acting to him. But I actually really liked it because I didn't realise so much of what you do as an actor is trying to shut off everyone else in the room. You don't realise that there's that energy, but you do expend energy trying to forget that and really try and immerse yourself. And because there was no one there, it was just much easier. I was like, wow, I didn't realise that's how much percentage of my energy goes towards pretending no one's there. But I actually really enjoyed it. And in fact, when everyone comes back, you're like, what? Why are there so many people around me? It's a bit daunting.
And I was going to jump in and say, like, so Carlos said this is something like I would do with my husband is like when I'm off in different places shooting, we'll like set the computer up in bed and be like, we're in bed together, and then it like showed up in the script. But the movie is also given back to me. Like we recently were video chatting with our friend's daughter in England, and she's maybe like a year old, and she had these little Play-Doh things, and she was like, we were like, oh, we're really hungry, can you give us one of those things? So she would like, we were like, oh, put a strawberry on top. So she puts a strawberry on this Play-Doh and lifts it to us, and out of frame, because we were having breakfast, we like pulled it up just like the movie, and she like, it was magic. It was amazing. I haven't told you that yet, Carlos, but it was so cute. Yeah.
Definitely gonna try that with children.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
It's really fun.
Did you do a traditional read-through of any sort when you were getting a sense for how this would go, or did it just happen when you were on Skype?
Yeah, we did a read-through.
Yeah, like the script was all written, so it's the script, and actually we did a lot of improvisation during rehearsal, but basically I just record some of the improvs, and we put on lines, but it was very, very structured.
It was pretty much the same. Yeah.
Yeah, like there's like a couple of moments, that some lines that are improvised, like for example in the last scene, this, like I won't explain much, but it's I didn't allow him to get to the place, and see it, so it's like, and then I leave him freedom, because it was so much tension. So just come and see how you feel, and and some moments will be like that's for fun, because I do a lot of takes, sometimes 15, 20 takes. So it's like, okay, now do whatever you want. Fun time. So then they improvise a little bit, but it was a very, very written script, and we will change it, but we will change it on set, like not as improvising, but okay, what do you think that's not working, so we'll collaborate, and then we just, until we had the scene, we stopped, we rewrote the scene, then memorize it fast. They're amazing memorizing, I don't know, like in the moment, and then go.
Yeah, I thought that was so cool that you didn't let David come to her apartment ever until like later, but
not to spoil anything.
Yeah, not to say anything. But so he has to imagine how her life is. Like you set up these great places, but then there was so much safety to explore with the actors. I thought was like, beautiful.
Something that is fascinating when you are talking a lot with somebody who's far away, and or you work with somebody, for a friend goes away and you're writing together as partners, for example, and then you see their apartment, but this time is writing on that place and then the other place. So you have like a fragmented image of what this apartment is, and it's very shocking the moment when you arrive in and you see the real space, because it's like, wow. And I wanted somehow for him to have this experience, but shoot it on camera too.
Right. So had you done improv before? Did this feel similar to other experiences you had as an actor?
Yeah. I mean, I think you kind of do improv all the time when you're an actor. Every job you do, there's always, you're compelled and allowed to do improv. And it's expected of you, I think, as part of your job, I'd say.
I like a lot of improv. For example, I think it's very dangerous, like sometimes, because you are just there as an actor and you try, it's double effort. Sometimes it's not helping. It's like you have to still be a screenwriter while you're acting, and you try to look good and be smart.
It's hard. It's really hard.
And you try to be smart on set, and then you lose the ability to be vulnerable. For me, it was important that it was kind of also giving them a text can be for some actors just liberating, because they don't have to think on it, and they can just go and flow with the situation and the emotion. And most of the directors, we think they are improvising. They actually. It's like A Woman Under the Influence is all written from A, B, C, D, F. So it's just trying to improvise within. There's a text, okay. There's some lines in there, but what you improvise kind of, it's like the emotion that goes through it.
And I feel like that's like when you had, because Carlos had separate rehearsals before and they did the improvisation and then you guys rewrote based off of that and then we were shooting with the script.
Yeah.
So it's a way to have the improvisation and have the freedom, but then have the structure and like have the safety. And I thought that was beautiful.
Because if everything's just pure improv, I think that's so hard. Anyone to do well.
To get specific.
It's so scary and hard. Whereas this, when we were rehearsing, he'd make us rehearse like the scene, and like I said, because we didn't know those words, we filled it in a little bit, but it was still there. We knew roughly what the through line was and everything like that.
That's fascinating. So bearing in mind all that, we do have another clip. So why don't we roll the next one? You can really sample any scene from this movie and get a moment like that. I mean, it's just filled with that stuff. But how did you know, you were getting it? I mean, when you're doing these takes where people are breaking down in tears.
We can tell a little bit the story about this moment. Natalia wanted to kill me with this scene.
Yeah.
She was hating me for a little bit.
I just can't look at it. I don't think it's very good. So you talk about it.
So that's my problem. That's our
I think they liked it. They thought it was pretty good. So.
No, so basically, I actually wrote this so she would speak to him in English, and it was like, so we recorded the first time in English, and that's the poor Natalia was preparing and everything, and she gave like a performance that, I like it as much as this one. She thinks that it was so much better. I just feel bad, but it was amazing, So we wrote it in English and everything. But then, it was like a very hard day because we repeated many times, It was like very, very tough. It was like completely devastated. And it was hard for everybody to shoot that scene. But then, at this moment, it's like, I was shooting, and then it's like, there's watching it, and I do a pre-cut, at night with the editor, with the co-editor. We'll edit and everything. And then I had the thing that there was something wrong. And so something to me say, no, she has, even if it's difficult for her to express her emotions, she should try to make it still in Spanish, that is his language, because in the character she's.
But we improvised a version of that, and it worked. It was a good one as well.
It was a very good one.
But it was on that day.
But then so I made her repeat it another day, and it's like, I'm not so good, but I like it personally. When I was editing, even the other performance was really good. Here there was like a feeling of taking a lot of effort that was missing for me in the other one, of not really, trying to get through an emotion that doesn't go through as easily. That it's a character that has a hard time to express emotion, and this inside fight that was here. And the fact that it was in Spanish, trying to get closer to him, even if it, making the effort because he's trying to get him back. So I actually reshot it another day. So I guess at the moment I wasn't sure of, even if the performance was amazing, there was something that for me, for the whole narrative of the movie was missing. But I didn't tell her, and then she wasn't South by poor. So it's like this difficult, like, sometimes it's very interesting, like the communication between actor and director, because it's not easy. We love each other, but of course we fight after this moment. It's like, no, that one was better, and it's like, it's really hard because, I feel as an actor, you open yourself, you give so much, and then it's like, sometimes, somebody come and edits that footage, and then it's like, wow, there's something that's, but I think in the end we're all happy, but it's hard to watch.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you'll have some great outtakes for the DVD release.
Yeah. That scene.
You can remix the movie later.
So it's the same dialogue, it's actually in English too, the same monologue.
It was so beautiful.
That's fascinating. Well, I want to make sure we squeeze in the third clip we have, so why don't we roll that?
Oh, I missed that, Eve.
That one, you don't even need the dialogue there to get what's going on. So, a lot of people may not know this, but your background is being an editor, and I think you edited this film as well? Or?
Yeah, with a friend.
I mean, one of the things that's interesting is if you look at your credits, some of the other movies you've cut are about a similar topic. There was a movie called 6 Years, and then another one called It Felt Like Love, which are also about these kind of dysfunctional romantic situations, and sometimes not so romantic. But what is it about this particular motif that's so interesting to you? And also, just to pivot off of that, now that you've actually directed a movie about it, is this sort of the direction you want to keep going, or what other stories do you want to tell?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess like with the editing, it's very random. I guess like you just get hired, and I guess I'm mostly by friends. I really respect and like their work, you know, like, so we share a lot of things, and then it's like, oh, do you want to come and edit? And I guess I'm attracted to the people who are attracted, you know, but it's in a very unconscious level, you know, like, but I don't know, there's something about trying to figure out what, you know, finding love. You know, that's what at the end we all want from life. We want love, and why it's not easier. You know, it should be like if we all want it, why don't we just give it to each other easier? And that question, you know, I guess like haunts me all the time. What happens? What's so strange and weird and not normal that makes us hurt each other? And it's our nature somehow.
And before we open it up to an audience Q&A, I want to give you two a chance to weigh in and sort of talk about, you know, having worked on a movie that's so small and kind of experimental like this, but it's well received. You know, you seem pretty much happy with it outside of that one scene. Does it inform the kind of things you want to do next?
I want to work with everyone again, basically, which is hopefully what's going to happen. So that's what I'm excited about.
What about you?
We're working together, yeah, again.
I think
It's already happening?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're preparing something to shoot next spring, so hopefully it's gonna happen.
I feel like something I love about this movie and Carlos's movies in general and Spirit is like, even if something's really sad, there's still humor there. Or when things are really happy, there can still be something shitty there too. Like life is very complicated, and I think like when we're working on this film, it's like he's embracing that. We're doing this like really sad scene, and they just start laughing, and like we didn't understand, and then it's in the cut, and it's fantastic, and it's just this like beautiful moment, because that does happen in life, and it's not. I feel like a lot of like movies and things this day are like, oh, it's only going to be drama, or it's only a comedy, and life isn't like that. It's complicated, and it has these different things, and we got to explore that in this, and I find that like now when I'm like reading other projects, I'm always like curious about the ones that do that, where they're like not crossing genre, but they're just like letting it have those real moments of like, even in the shit, there's something great and funny, or the other way around. And I think that
I always feel like I don't like too much filmmakers without sense of humor. You know, like even Bergman has like a lot of sense of humor. And sometimes that you'll say no, but there's moments at least where some irony or in the moments like but finding the most absurd moments. Even when you have somebody dying, there's
people laugh at a funeral.
People laugh
yeah.
at funerals. And,
yeah.
and
Why
that's
does that happen?
How we are.
So it's just
Yeah.
Great. So why don't we open it up to the audience Q&A?
Hi guys, how's it going? This film looks great. Looks like a true passion project. My question's for Natalia. So, having your character not play a part in the last season of Game of Thrones, I assume opened up your schedule to where you could be doing stuff like this, and probably got a lot of stuff in the can that you wouldn't have been able to do if you were spending half the time shooting the show. So, my question is, will this next season offer you the same luxuries, or maybe not as much free time coming up?
Do you really think I'm going to tell you?
I thought I framed it
Do
in
you
a
think I'm
creative
gonna
enough
tell you?
way that maybe.
I can't tell you anything. I'm sorry, but you wouldn't really want to know. It's good to keep things
Mysterious.
mysterious.
You just look at her IMDb page. And,
Hi, Natalia. I love Harry Potter. I'm going to watch Game of Thrones at some point because I love Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. And
Yes.
this is a two-part question. Have you ever gone from fantasy to like doing superhero? I mean, I love superhero and fantasy. Like, you ever felt like doing like fantasy,
I'd
more
love to.
superhero, or like Jurassic Park or something like that? And then the other question is, what was
Yes.
Daniel Radcliffe and Emma Watson, Rupert Grint like from your point of view?
Okay. The first question, I would love to do that. I love comic books. I don't know if you're a big comic book fan, but I love everything. Batman. I love Preacher. I love Transmetropolitan. I love Hellboy. I don't know Marvel as much because I've only just recently got in there. I love the Dark Tower, Stephen King stuff. I'm a big comic book fan, so I would love nothing more than to be.
If you feel like doing the next Jurassic Park movie,
Well, I've got to get invited to do it. I mean, if it was just as simple as me just like knocking on a door and go, "Can I have it?" I wish. Hopefully, I'll audition and it'll be good. And what were those two like? They were lovely. Those Dan, Rupert, and Emma. They were all lovely. I didn't get that much time with them because I wasn't at the school. So I didn't, I wasn't really always working with them. I worked more with the kind of older actors. But what I did know of them, they were lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, sorry.
Hey guys, I just want to let you know that the movie looks amazing. This question is specifically directed to Dagmar. outside of filming the scenes when one room was light and the other room was dark, what was like the most difficult aspect of capturing the love story in two specific rooms?
Well, I think our most challenging thing on the movie was definitely that opening shot, because it's 23 minutes, there's no cuts in it. And not only is that like technically challenging just because of like orchestrating a shot like that, but we also wanted to make a space that felt safe for the actors to have that real intimacy and to have that love in that space, even though we've got like so many people to make that shot possible. There's like the cameras on the dolly. We had 4 sound guys, I think, because it starts in a sex scene and someone's gonna be in a shower at some point, so they can't wear lavs. So there's like 4 different boom operators, and it's a very small real apartment in Barcelona, and they're like, the lights are all coming in through the window, so the sound people have to like crawl underneath the lights out to make any shadow. But even though we have this whole army of people to make this shot, we have to still give the kind of energy and make the safe space that would let them have like a real intimate scene. And Carlos led us in that, and I feel like there were times where maybe the crew was like, hopefully an invisible like thing, like hugging the set or something, you know, like letting us make that space for it. I think the other thing that was like challenging was just like making it feel like it really was Los Angeles, even though it was also in Barcelona. So we were really embracing trying to find that quality of light that looks like Los Angeles and like observing the horizontals. But I think something beautiful that film can do that like some of the other arts can't, like theater can't, is even though it can have this life and this realism, you can't have like close proximity intimacy the way a camera can with a person. And like this is true for documentary or fiction or anything. When you have the lens close with someone, like you feel that. You feel like you're with this person, and it's as though we've spent all this time together and everything that we are all doing together, and you're bringing the camera close, and it lets the audience come close and be in that point of view. And I think Carlos came up with some very structured rules for when we're with the red camera or when we're with the video chat. And this last scene we saw is the first time one of the first times where it intercuts, and you have the 2 spaces both with the higher quality camera. And I think it was very important that we separated that, so you really get into the point of view of whoever you're with. You know, you're really feeling like you can only see what they can see through the computer. Like if it was like Doris Day and you could just like have a split screen and be cutting between the 2 of them, you wouldn't feel that angst of like wanting to know like where are they, and that distance, like when she starts disappearing in the film, like where is she going, and I feel her absence and all of that, you know. I think that was like really good.
This is for Carlos. What would you say is like the most difficult part about filmmaking, and do you have any suggestions for an aspiring filmmaker?
Wow. Okay, the first one is maybe easier, but it's not easier. So what's the most difficult part? I guess the waiting, to me, not doing your job. You know, the amount of time you're just like trying to get to do it, and trying to, for me the most difficult is trying to enjoy the journey. You know, it's like, and that's the basics, because normally it just takes, some people are genius and they go there and they do it. Some of them are dead when they are 27, so it's better not to be a genius somehow and work hard. There's a lot of filmmakers, I think they are not genius, and they are the best filmmakers of history. And I don't think, you know, obviously, you know, like Orson Welles was a genius, but maybe Rossellini wasn't, you know, and he was just a guy who worked very hard and very smart, you know, and I think both things can be fine. And so I just try to enjoy. For me, that's the most difficult part. Making the job for me is joy. I just enjoy it, and so it's pain, but you know, kind of this where pain and, you know, and joy get together, that thing, like sex. And then the other, it's very hard to give advice, because I don't know, it's like each one has its own path, you know, and I had so many people at school even like saying, no, you know, you have to get this, you have to do that, you have, you know, like that's the way you do it, you have to get into the business, you have to have contacts, and then it's like, I don't know, you get so confused. And you know, to me it's like there's no path made, you know, you just have to me it was like trying to enjoy the thing on the way, and just very, you know, very honest with the things you do, and forget about all the, you know, getting contacts. And it's good, you need your crew, you need friends, that's the only thing, you know, that's the only thing I say, you need friends, but you don't need contacts, you don't need networking. You need good friends who're gonna because it's very hard to make a movie alone, you know. So I don't know, it's hard, but enjoy.
Hello, how you doing? I just want to know how long did it take this movie how long did it take to shoot the movie, and how much time was spent in post-production?
So we shot 20 days, a little bit divided because we had some scheduled conflict, but in the span of a month and a half, and then we edited for 2 months and a half, 3, and yeah, it was actually not that, it was pretty fast. So we edited for a month, then I stopped, and then for 2 weeks or so. It's nice that you can really take your time off, and because I started co-editing with the editor, but then at some moments he had to leave for something else, so I finished the movie alone for the last month, something like that. But it's really nice to have. Sorry, I can speak more. It's really nice to have a co-editor, even if you have, I feel like, a director-editor. There's a moment where you need some separation of the material. That's true, but I think you can make it. If you're a professional, if you work as an editor, you know how to separate. You know how to see. Actually, the problem is that you cut too much sometimes. That's my favorite story of the director's cut of, I think it's Fargo. It's shorter than the version that it was released. It's the only case because they are editors too. So sometimes you need somebody to say, hey, don't cut this, that's important for you. But the good thing is, if you start working with somebody that is editor, then even if they leave after, they can come in with fresh eyes, and they know the material, because if not, when you show and get your friends' feedback and everything, the problem is they don't know what you have, so they can suggest things and everything, but then it's no. And having this other person there, for me, was essential. Juliana, she's a wonderful editor that I couldn't have done it without her.
So those practical questions always come up. The only one you didn't answer was, what was your budget?
So it's tricky too, because we had a budget to shoot, but then after we shot, we got some more money. So I think the official budget is 300, but it's actually more like 200.
Not that much, though. By
no,
any
it's not that much. But I'm amazed. You're talking about 6 years. It's even made with it's crazy. American independent filmmakers, I think it's even easier. They make even more movies for less money. It's how do people do it? For us, it was also because we're kind of union, not really union, but we were having doing we shot in Spain, so you have to do social security, and it's very expensive. So a lot of the money went into kind of insurance and also promotion, because it's very hard in Spain to get independent film. You have to save some of money in order to put it on publicity afterwards. So it's really hard to but it's between 200 and 300 more or less.
Hello. I was wondering about, obviously English is your first language for Natalia. How is it doing this film speaking a lot in Spanish? Obviously it looked like you had at least a little bit speaking in English, but majority it looks like it was in Spanish.
Well, I'm Spanish.
Oh, you are? I'm sorry, I didn't actually know that.
No, it's fine. No, but
so then how was it actually being able to speak in that, as opposed to a lot of your other roles have been in English then?
It was really hard because even though my family's all Spanish, I went to school in England, so I've only ever used English as a way of memorizing stuff and scripts and stuff, so I've never really used that part of my brain for Spanish, and it was really hard to memorize, even script, let alone interpret it. But David, every night, would sit with me, and we'd play this game called Shithead, and basically once we could play it and do the lines, and it was seamless, that meant that it was ready. But every day was a big day. That's the thing, some days you have a big day, and then you might have a bit of an easier day the next day, so you can prepare for the day after. But this was just relentless every day.
Playing cards, drinking wine,
and just doing it. And it was only because of him, really, that I was able to do this. Really. Thank you.
Hi, it's for Natalia. I don't know if you can speak about it yet, but the series that you're doing, The Refugees.
Yes.
I don't know when we're going to see it here, but
I don't know either.
Really seems fascinating.
I hope it does make it. It hasn't even got to England yet, and it's BBC. So let's see what happens. Fingers crossed. I hope you guys get to see it.
In the meantime, this movie that you're in opens this week.
On Friday. Tell everyone. Please.
Yes, please. IFC here. Go to see it and tell everybody, please. And
tweet about it.
It's on video on demand. If somebody watch it on the on the podcast. So if one of the other cities that is not happening, but still Los Angeles, also Dallas.
Go to Minions, right?
Don't
You
go
see
to
them both.
Minions. Skype your friends to let them
You
know
can go
about
both.
it.
Yeah.
You can do
In one
Minions
day.
on this movie. That's
Go to
great.
Minions and
it's
then go
actually
see
like
this
a good pair, I think. It's a very good pair, I think. You just have to mix them like
Well,
Minions
on
and
that,
Skype. That would be great.
On that wonderfully eccentric note, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for sticking
Thank you for
around.
having us.
Thank you.